Hi, my name is Brittany. This is my critical race theory narrative video. When looking at the racial identity development theories in Module 2, I really liked them and they were pretty eye-opening. The one I identified the most and strongly with was the white racial identity model. This is because I am white, I am from European descent, so that's why I chose that one. The role of race in framing my racial identity, I didn't become aware much of race for quite some time. I grew up in a really rural area, which was predominantly white. There were, I think, two people of color in my town and in my school. And so I grew up around white people and that kind of culture. My own culture, the European culture, wasn't talked about a lot in my household. It wasn't until, about recently when I had to reflect on my culture and ethnicity that, I learned even more about it. I didn't really care growing up. It wasn't at the forefront. Looking back, I think that's because it was a predominantly white area, and so for me, I fit in with everyone else. Um, and so, but as I've gotten older, I've realized that, the people of color that I grew up around probably had different experiences than I did, even though to me they weren't any different. But for them, they may have experienced racism that I wasn't aware of or honestly paid attention to because it wasn't something that I knew to pay attention to. Um, and going off of that, I have not experienced or seen um, institutionalized racism, either back home growing up or out west here. However, being exposed to social media, it has brought to light more access to stories of institutionalized racism, specifically stories of Black people who are discriminated against by the police and by predominantly white people. For example, Black people or Hispanic people going into their own neighborhoods and white people assuming they don't belong there. We saw it with the coronavirus. Many people assumed it was, the China virus, and people were very racist towards Asian Americans and Asians in general. And so I think we've all seen that side of the institutionalized racism, which is unfortunate. And I myself have never experienced it. And so, because of that, I looked at Erickson's stage of early adulthood, which focuses on intimacy and isolation. And people who successfully navigate this stage are able to achieve intimacy or close bonds with others, and failure in this stage results in isolation, due to fear or rejection. And I think someone who experiences racism at this stage may have difficulty reaching the intimacy level. And this is due, the effects of racism could cause a young adult to internalize the racism and make it difficult for them to form close bonds with others, especially if they feel, or if a white person is being racist towards them, it could result in a Black person not being able to form a close bond with those of the white race. And when applying the critical race theory and challenging power structures that perpetuate racial inequality, what stood out to me in the Kolowski article, they report that for child welfare workers, they must be open to listening to the lives of clients and their families, and being aware of the colorblind policies that are in place and that don't take into account the unique experiences of families of different races. And I would categorize myself as a child welfare worker working in the school system. And so, one thing I could do is listen to the families that I work with, hear their sides, their culture, the way that they experience things, and how they have been experienced maybe, difficulty in the social service area, being discriminated against, just being open and being an active listener. Another thing I can do is definitely advocate for them within the education system. My biggest thing is not telling people what to do, asking them what I can do for them, and then being their voice. So thank you.